Let's talk about some Sonic the Hedgehog clones. I'm not talking about Metal Sonic or Shadow the Hedgehog, I'm talking about games. Video games that play a lot like Sonic the Hedgehog. A Sonic the Hedgehog clone doesn't necessarily mean a bad game. Think of it more as a descriptor of a type of platformer. For example, if you describe a game as a Metroidvania, it's a game that probably has a structure similar to Metroid or Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And that's what we're looking for here. A game with a very specific type of momentum-based platforming, which seems very similar to Sonic the Hedgehog. Hence, a Sonic clone. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro. If that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? Today we're looking at some things that are weird, some things that are retro, and the first game is something that's rather weird. Not very retro though. It's a game that originally came out for the Nintendo Wii U and has recently gotten a deluxe edition for the PlayStation 4. And we are talking about Epic Dumpster Bear. Okay, I'm kind of fudging my own rules at the beginning of the video because Dumpster Bear is less of a pure Sonic clone and more of a game that takes elements from many different platformers. Granted, the core of the game itself is still momentum-based platforming. And even though Dumpster Bear himself has more weight and a lot of sections that are more Mario-esque, the more speed-based sections here do evoke more of a Sonic-esque feeling. So what is Epic Dumpster Bear? Well, you play as Dumpster Bear, and his home forest has been wrecked by an evil corporation, and Dumpster Bear has had to resort to eating food out of dumpsters. And that pisses him off. So he goes off to exact revenge against the evil corporation. Now, one thing you may know so far is Dumpster Bear does not look great. In fact, it looks pretty bad graphically speaking. But that's the point. This was literally a Unity pack that the developer bought. And he was like, yeah, this bear animation looks funny with the engine I've made. The sound is a completely different beast. The music here is fantastic. And the gameplay, yes, it's fast, it's flowing, just like a Sonic game. But like in New Super Mario Bros., there's a wall jump, and at some points, levels do slow down a bit. But never to the point as in Sonic 1, where you literally have parts where the game comes to a complete halt. You can keep up the flow here in every single level, and that's great. Now, what's interesting about Dumpster Bear is depending on the platform, there are some certain extras. Regardless, both are worth picking up, because Dumpster Bear is only $5. And I'd love to give this game a full proper review at some point. But for now, it's the first entry of 5 on today's list. So moving from a bear to a cat, the next entry on our list is one that's probably been talked about many times before in videos about Sonic clones. Bubsy. Bubsy the Bobcat, the poster child for failed video game mascots. He had some crappy Genesis and SNES games, a crappy cartoon pilot, and a PS4 game that was remarkably decent. For the sake of this video, we're only going to be looking at the first Bubsy game, because honestly, I could probably do a complete retrospective on this Bobcat, and I might. So Bubsy the Bobcat, he's big, he's loud, he's in your face.
What could possibly go wrong?
And his first game was Bubsy Claws Encounters of the Third Kind. I see what they did there. Wow, that was clever. I'll be honest, Bubsy gets a lot of hate, but this first game, it actually made a pretty decent first impression. The graphics are bright and vibrant, and the dialogue, as stupid as it is and as annoying as Bubsy himself is, seems oddly clever in a way.
More like a bridge too short.
It seems like something that has the potential to be a good game. Gliding, jumping on enemies, it all feels good. It's just a shame that the levels aren't designed around this. Even though the game starts you off with 9 lives, it's one hit and you're dead. Levels really aren't designed around this, and you will hear Bubsy's stupid, annoying one-liners a lot.
What could possibly go wrong?
I'll be honest, I couldn't get past the second world here, and I honestly didn't want to. Bubsy is pretty terrible.
What could possibly go wrong?
Everything can go wrong, but let's move on to our next game. So I guess this next game technically fudges the rules a bit because it's pretty obviously going to be a Sonic clone since it started out as a Sonic fan game. And I'm talking about Freedom Planet. Freedom Planet's a game that came out for PS4 and Steam and the Wii U, which was my console of choice when I first experienced it. And it's a game where you take control of Lilac, a dragon, Carol, a wildcat, who also rides a motorcycle, or Millie, who's adorable. Freedom Planet follows these three heroes and an alien friend as they take on the evil Lord Brevin, and that's pretty much it. There is a lot of cutscenes that go into detail on this, and honestly the voice acting is very hit or miss.
Where are you going? I have to make sure they're okay.
So long cutscenes aside, the gameplay here is remarkably sharp. I love these levels, they really do have that classic Sonic feel. But what's interesting is though it's very much so classic Sonic inspired, none of the three playable characters is a Sonic clone. Each of them have their own abilities, and while yes there is speed-based platforming, they're original enough to stand their own. Also of note is that each of these characters has one or two exclusive stages, encouraging replay value. What I'm saying is Freedom Planet is a fantastic game for any system that you play it on. And best of all, it's getting a sequel soon. But for now, make do with the original. It's great and you should definitely give it a try. But perhaps something you should pass on is the next game on our list.
Possum, Possum, kickstart the machine on butt.
I'm awesome.
Awesome Possum. A game that was meant to teach kids about pollution and saving the environment and stuff. Awesome Possum is a Sonic clone in every sense of the word. When you jump on an enemy, you turn into a ball and, well, tries to go fast, though it certainly doesn't feel fast. And God, is the scrolling jittery. The graphics are really muddy here too, and what the hell is this? Is that a quiz? So Awesome Possum never shuts up, and it's jittery, and the hit detection is off, and he never shuts up.
Check this out. That was really bad. I'm so cool.
And oh, thank God, there's an option to turn off the talking. So yeah, that's it for this one. It's trash. Just to give y'all just how much of an idea of how bad Awesome Possum is, instead of teaching me about the environment, this game inspired me to not only turn on my shower, but my sink at the same time. So let's end this video on a high note, and let's move away from console gaming altogether. For the final game on today's list, let's take a look at a PC game. Once again, only the first game in a series, and that of course is Jazz Jackrabbit. I'm sure a lot of you watching this who grew up in the 90s probably remember Jazz Jackrabbit, and honestly, I can't believe I didn't play this until a few days ago. What's incredible about this game, well, long story short, if I didn't have access to a Genesis as a kid and I just had this to play, I would have been completely fine with that. Jazz Jackrabbit is Sonic, but with a gun. Multiple guns. And I don't mean that Shadow the Hedgehog way.
Damn
I
you.
mean in that Mega Man way. And it's so satisfying. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Sonic CD, especially with how open some of these levels end up feeling. Now, the sprites aren't as big and vibrant as the Sonic games, and it somehow doesn't feel quite as fast, but it is just as vibrant, and oh my God, is the soundtrack great. Not a lot of jazz though for a game called Jazz Jackrabbit. It's more of a rocking soundtrack in my opinion. You owe it to yourself if you're a Sonic fan, a retro game fan, a fan of platformers or good times in general, to track down a copy of Jazz Jackrabbit and to give it a try. So with that, what Sonic the Hedgehog clones do you think are the best? What are your favorite Sonic games? What games should I take a look at in the future? Let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to Stuff We Play for more great content like this, or if you want to go to extra mile, even support us on Patreon, because every dollar does go back into the show itself. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Stay classy, and I'll see you next time.